So I'm a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I even do a podcast about it. What is the name of this podcast? And yeah, one of my favorite wrestlers in New Japan Pro Wrestling is a man called the Great Okan, who gets a lot of his style and mannerisms and stuff from Mr. Vampire, which is a 1980s horror comedy. It's directed by Ricky Lau. It's written by Siu Chuk Hung, Barry Wong, and Wong Yang, and produced by Sammo Hung. It is a vampire movie with a difference, which is pretty cool. It follows what is called a Jiangxi, Japanese folklore. Got Japanese on the brain because of Great Khan. Chinese folklore. Sorry, I correct myself right there. And it's really interesting, like dead bodies and stuff, or when they're vampires and stuff, they can only hop rather than move around and stuff like that. I guess unless they're in fight scenes, then they have to kind of move around and fight. Otherwise, they be hopping. And the movie is about shit. How do you explain that? Well, it's about this master and lots of dumbasses that are under him as they try to defeat Mr. Vampire and all these other vampire and ghosts and shit. And in between, see, I've got a problem with this movie. All of the fight stuff and the choreographed stuff and the horror stuff is freaking cool. I really like it. It can be really creative and inventive and lots of fun. And includes like lots of stunts that make you go, oh, ouch. How did he just land like that was nothing? Or, man, what an absolute massive bump by jumping from way up there to down here. And the stunts can be really fun and creative. And a little silly, you'll see a string here or there and all that kind of thing. It's fine. And the fights get really crazy with like floating heads and laser knives and things like that. And those scenes are actually really well done. And they're fun. In fact, they're the reasons you want to watch this movie. Because in between those scenes, this movie is weird and kind of boring. And there's some scenes here in the movie that I'm like, why is this here? What was the point of that? There's a whole long scene where they're all drinking tea, but they don't know how to drink Western tea, and then they get in there and order coffee, and it was just an intro to some characters, but it just felt really long and weird. There's this scene where one of the guys is tasked with buying gelatinous rice, and I'm like, all right, so we can just cut to him leaving the rice store with the rice, or he cut to him just entering the rice store. No, we've got to find out all about the owner of the rice business, his wife, and his stupid son. Every son in this movie is stupid. If you're a young person in this movie, you're a dum-dum. And the master, who's the guy everyone respects and looks after and turns up to help, he's about the same age as everybody else in the movie, but he just has grey eyebrows and grey hair. No facial makeup to make him look old, just the eyebrows and the hair. Makes him look like he has a freaking huge dandruff problem. So whenever they're doing the mythology stuff, the actual horror action scenes, the movie is quite fun and creative. But then we get to all the other stuff, which isn't as funny as they want it to be. There's some funny moments, but I'm just like, eh. Then there's this really awkward character. Like, there's this young, beautiful lady in it whose character has just turned 18, and everyone wants to bang this lady, including her cousin. And I'm just like, why is that in your... Which one of the three writers wrote that bit? Why is that in the movie? So if I was to recommend you watch Mr. Vampire, the way I do it is just watch a highlight of all the really cool scenes. And that's about it. That's all you need. Because most of the in-between is kind of lame. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. See, it's my theory that maybe Great Khan grew up with this movie as a kid. He'd seen it a million times, maybe all the sequels too, so it's a big part of like he's growing up or something, that's why he's attached to it. But in terms of actual movie, it doesn't really hold up, I'm sorry. There's some fun to be had, but they make you wait for it way too long. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I kind of liked it enough to check out a sequel, I don't know if I want to check out all of the sequels though. We'll see. We will see.